At number 10, Bill Maher. I'm sure we are all familiar with how outspoken Bill Maher is. He said some things in the past that people have no doubt taken offense to, but after one comment that he made, it seems as though he's made an enemy with James Corden, and now they just don't like each other. Back in 2019, Bill made some offensive comments about weight, where he said, quote, "Fat shaming doesn't need to end, it needs to make a comeback. Some amount of shame is good. Shame is the first step in reform," end quote. When James saw this, he took the first 8 minutes of his Late Show episode to discuss the comments that Bill made, where he said, quote, "So I sat at home and I'm watching this and all I could think of was like, oh man, somebody needs to say something about this. If only there was someone with a platform who knew what it was really like to be overweight, and then I realized, oh, that's me. There's a common and insulting misconception that fat people are stupid and lazy, and we're not," end quote. Bill later responded to James's criticisms of his comments, essentially telling him that he was wrong to not shame people for their appearance, but he was pretty heated. People often have opposing views, but it looks like this is a view that they won't really come out of. At number 9, Jack Allison. Jack Allison is a member of the Writers Guild of America and used to write for Jimmy Kimmel's show back in the day, so he knows his way around late night TV. So when he found out about the shady things that James was doing on his show, he had to call him out for it, and it was not pretty. According to Jack, he went to a WGA meeting for late night writers, and James showed up to said meeting to advocate for a lower pay grade for late night writers. Doesn't really sound like something to advocate for, since it's affecting people's livelihoods, right? Jack alleged that since James showed up to the meeting without any other staffers from his show, that James made that trip to the meeting just for this request. Jack also alleged that James wanted to hire writers' assistants for 13-week periods so that he didn't have to pay them as much as a full-time contractor. He didn't think that this was fair at all, and so he decided to expose James on Twitter. James fired back online saying that this was all untrue, but Jack stuck to his story. I guess he really had it out for James because of how unfairly he wanted to treat his staff, and honestly, I can't blame him. Now before I carry on with this list, I would like to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because it really does help the channel out and we appreciate your support. At number 8, Ricky Gervais. It's a common thing for comedians to take jabs at other comedians. It's really just part of the culture of comedy, but I feel like when it comes to Ricky Gervais and James Corden, the jabs that he makes aren't just for laughs, but there's actual hate fueling them as well. Even though they both rose to fame in similar ways, both getting their start on British television, then making their way into movies and hosting, Ricky still seems to have a distaste for James, and he makes that apparent at every moment he can by making jokes about the late night TV host. This first started back in 2009 when James portrayed Ricky on his show. I guess Ricky wasn't a fan of the way that he was played on TV because since then, he's been a little hostile towards James. One source commented on Ricky's feelings towards James when they said, quote, "Ricky is now somewhat obsessed, attacking James when his jokes fall flat and poking fun of his size," end quote. In recent years, Ricky has also made a few jabs at Corden's jokes about Harvey Weinstein as well as James's role in the movie Cats. At number 7, Ricky Whittle. Actor Ricky Whittle, best known for his roles on The 100 and American Gods, isn't a fan of James Corden after he called the late night host out for comments that he made about a show that the two of them had once starred in. Ricky used to be on a British soap opera called Hollyoaks, and back in 2000, James was a guest star on one of the episodes. Years later, when asked about his time on the show, James had nothing positive to say about it. He told sources about his experience on the show saying, quote, "I'd actually rather die than go back. It's effing awful. It just breeds all these people walking around in this chicken in a basket fame, talking about going to LA, you know?" End quote. Ricky did not appreciate the shade that James threw at the show that gave them both their start, and so he clapped back at James where he said, quote, "It's very childish that he's slating the place where he came from, the place that made him. Good luck to him, I hope he doesn't bump into us on a night out," end quote. I think it's safe to say that Ricky is not a fan at all. At number 6, Artie Lang. Comedian Artie Lang seems to have a lot to say about a handful of Hollywood stars, especially those who have been associated with Howard Stern. Artie and Howard once worked together when he served as something of a sidekick to Stern on the Howard Stern Show back in 2001 to 2009, but he was forced to leave the show due to his substance abuse issues. It seems like the comedian carried that grudge with him for a long time because he really doesn't have anything nice to say about Howard or anyone else that he's worked with. For example, James Corden. Back in 2016, during Artie's podcast called Artie Quitter, the comedian started ripping on Stern, saying that he doesn't like how his comedy has changed from being more brash and abrasive to being more celebrity friendly, but then somehow he got into ripping on James Corden as well, since he was a guest on Howard's show not too long before this episode of Artie's podcast. The comedian started making comments about James saying, quote, "When James Corden opens his fat effing mouth to do karaoke in a car, something that wouldn't be effing funny to the secretaries at an accounting firm, and gets an Emmy for it, I'm allowed to say that he sucks, end quote. Those were some harsh words for someone who I don't think has ever been personally associated with, so I guess this is just him projecting his anger onto James, but the bottom line here is that he's certainly not a fan. At number 5, Liam Gallagher. I think that the one thing that James Corden is best known for is his carpool karaoke segment on his late night show. Over the series of episodes he's done, he's sung with everyone from One Direction to Adele to Migos and more. But even though the show reaches out to many artists, some of them have refused to participate in the segment, like Liam Gallagher, for example. Liam is the former singer for the band Oasis, and he told GQ magazine back in 2017 about how he was invited to film an episode of Carpool Karaoke with James Corden, and he flat out refused. Going more in depth into why he refused, Liam said, quote, "No thank you very much, no effing chance, mate. With that fat bloke from Kevin and Perry, James Corden is a knobhead," end quote. Clearly he doesn't like James very much, but no one really knows why. Maybe it's personal, or maybe he just doesn't like James's vibes or something. Either way, Carpool Karaoke with Oasis is never gonna happen. At number 4, Asia Argento and Rose McGowan. Sometimes it seems as though James Corden has trouble reading the room. Yes, he is a comedian, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be constantly cracking jokes, because there is an appropriate time and place for comedy, and you have to be mindful of that. James's lack of respect for the Me Too movement is the reason why Asia Argento and Rose McGowan hate James Corden so much, because after he made jokes about Harvey Weinstein at the height of his public takedown, they never saw him the same way. Back in 2017, James was hosting a black tie event for AIDS research where he did a little comedy monologue that seriously fell flat. He made several jokes about Weinstein, saying things like, quote, "This evening is so lovely that Weinstein already invited it up to his room for a massage," and quote, "It's been a weird week, hasn't it, watching Harvey Weinstein in hot water. Ask any of the women who watch him take a bath, it's weird watching Harvey Weinstein in hot water." Two Hollywood stars who were heavily involved in exposing Weinstein for his crimes, Asia Argento and Rose McGowan, took serious offense to James's jokes, and they had some harsh words for him, calling the comedian an effing piglet and saying, quote, "Shame on this pig and everyone who grunted with him," end quote. There are just some things that you shouldn't joke about, and the situation with Weinstein was certainly one of those things. At number 3, Pierce Brosnan. You know when you meet someone who just rubs you the wrong way? Well, this is apparently how Pierce Brosnan felt about James Corden, because they had a run-in at a concert one time and it seemingly wasn't a pleasant experience. During an episode of The Late Late Show in 2017, James Corden spilled the tea about a celebrity that he thought was rude during their segment of Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts. That night's guest, Khloe Kardashian, asked James about his worst experience with a celebrity, and James told the viewers about a run-in that he had with Pierce at a concert while with his wife. James said, quote, "I went to see U2 and Pierce Brosnan was there with some friends, and they left halfway through the gig to go off, so me and my wife moved into this area, and literally this arm went on here and pushed me out of the way. I looked at him like that, and he didn't even glance at me," end quote. So basically, Pierce left his section for a bit and James moved in, but when Pierce got back, he shoved James out of the way. There was never really an explanation as to why Pierce shoved James, but clearly he just doesn't like the guy. You don't always have to have a reason, but I just wonder what prompted Pierce to do that. At number 2, Patrick Stewart. While at an award show back in 2010, Patrick Stewart exchanged some quips with James Corden and really dug into the way that he was presenting at the show that evening. James was hosting the 2010 Glamour Women of the Year award, and when Patrick took the stage, he took the opportunity to criticize the way James had been hosting, where he said, quote, "When the presenters are up here and when the recipients are receiving their awards, don't stand at the back of the stage with your hands in your pockets, looking around as though you wish you were anywhere but here," end quote. James tried to quip back, saying that the people accepting the awards should just hurry up. Then Patrick replied saying, quote, "From where I was sitting, I can see your belly, and that was right there at the back of the room." To which James then replied saying, quote, "You can see my belly and we can all see you dying right now," end quote. It was just a really messy back and forth situation, but you could kind of tell that Patrick was frustrated with James and that he just really doesn't like him very much. And finally, at number 1, Hollywood. Now I know this isn't necessarily a celebrity, but I would argue that much of Hollywood doesn't like James Corden. Though yes, he's getting booked for a lot of roles these days, a lot of movie critics have some harsh words for the comedian. One of the most recent negative criticisms that James received from a number of sources came from his performance in the movie Prom. A lot of people didn't like his portrayal of the character, and many took offense because of the way the character was played, because James seemed to have laid into a lot of gay stereotypes while in character. On top of that, James has been criticized for other roles like his character in the movie Cats, and even his hosting of the Friends reunion. There are a lot of people who think that he's just doing the absolute most in Hollywood and it's not good, so a lot of people just don't like him for that.
Kicking off this list at number 10 is Miley Cyrus. If you followed her past relationship with Liam Hemsworth at all, then you probably remember the alleged love triangle between Miley, Liam, and Jennifer. That's not a triangle, that's a diamond. Rumors spread like wildfire when the Hunger Games first came out, with people suggesting that Jen and Liam had something between them off the big screen. For years, no one really knew if it was true or not, but then Jen confirmed it for fans in December of 2015. She went on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen and admitted to making out with Liam off set. Andy asked her if they have ever kissed when the cameras weren't rolling, and Jennifer's response was, "Liam and I grew up together. Liam's real hot. What would you have done?" "Yeah, I have." Reports say this is actually why Miley and Liam got back together after their first initial split, because Miley got jealous and thought she might lose him to Jen. Now, how much of this is true we won't really know, but Jen confirmed that she and Liam had a little something something, and that is something I've always wondered personally. So glad it was confirmed. Up next, number 9 is Jared Leto. She had some sort of weird tension with the actor back in 2014, and it all came out at the Oscar Awards. She took the stage to present the award for Best Actor and called out someone in the audience by asking, "What, is this funny?" Turns out the mystery audience member was Jared Leto. He explained what happened later on and said that Ellen DeGeneres was on the sidelines making jokes that had him, his mom, and his brother all cracking up and laughing. When asked about if he felt bad interrupting Jennifer unintentionally, he made sarcastic comments like, "I guess we don't have any manners." To top it all off, he was then asked about Jen's famous fall when she tumbled up the stage to accept her award at the Oscars, and Jared responded by saying, "You know, I'm starting to wonder if this is a bit of an act." We're not sure what the tension is between them, but there is a lot of sarcasm between the two of them. They both just seem like very sarcastic people though, in general. Cruising into number 8 is Joan Rivers. Back in November 2013, Jen did an interview with the Yahoo CEO Marissa Maher and was asked about body positivity. One man asked her a question on behalf of his daughter and said, "Having experienced body image criticism in Hollywood, what is your advice to young girls dealing with the same treatment from their peers and your response to those who judge others based on appearances?" Jen responded by saying, "Screw those people," and went on to call out Joan Rivers' show Fashion Police. She called out the show and said that shows like that are showing younger generations of young people to judge other people based on things like their appearance, and that is wrong. Joan wasn't too impressed with her comment, and she took her thoughts to Twitter. Some of her tweets said, "It's funny how Jennifer Lawrence loved the show during awards season when we were complimenting her every single week. She actually even went on to make a joke about Jen's famous Oscar fall and said that she tripped over her own arrogance." Shots fired. Although I don't fully agree with that show either. You're literally judging someone on their appearance. That's the entire show. Making his way into number 7 is Spencer Pratt. Seems like a really random feud since they come from two totally different worlds, one being a Hollywood actor and another coming from MTV reality shows. But in 2017, she landed the cover of Vogue, and during her interview, she said that her house was flooded with crystals. She said when she first moved in, there were crystals everywhere, and she asked to get rid of them ASAP because she hates them. She said, "Please get rid of these. I don't want people to come over here and think I'm a crazy crystal person." This is where Spencer Pratt came in. He is one of those crazy crystal people, as she called them. After the Vogue interview was out, he went on the defensive and announced that he felt personally attacked by her comments. He did an interview with The Morning Breath and said, "She was talking about me in Vogue, like 100% I'm the crazy crystal person she's clowning, so I'll see her. We'll bump into each other at the Beverly Hills Hotel like I see all the A-listers and they run from me." Honestly, I don't think she was talking about you. I don't think she cares. Really? Like in the Vogue interview, I don't think she's thinking of Spencer Pratt. No offense. In spot number 6 is Chloe Sevigny. Now I know I probably said that wrong, so just forgive me and move on from it, okay? The actress didn't hold back when sharing her thoughts on Jennifer Lawrence and was honest about it during an interview in 2015. She sat down with V Magazine and asked if she ever worries about being typecast. After admitting that she does, she explained herself and said, "They'll have a really peppy funny girl on the talk show rounds and everybody adores her and loves her and wants to be her, and then so many more people want to watch the movie or TV show." She then went on to name a couple of A-listers who she admires and one that she could do without. That one it's Jennifer Lawrence. Her exact words were, "Jennifer Lawrence I find annoying, too crass." We're not sure why she targeted Jen in the interview. No reports surfaced about them having any kind of tension towards one another, so it still remains a mystery. The amount of times I've been called annoying in my life, I just take it as a compliment at this point. Halfway through at number 5 is Donald Trump Jr. Does he even count as a celebrity? Probably not, I don't know, but this is still a fun story that I wanted to include. I'm sure being the son of the former president who caused a ton of controversy would often have you in the middle of feuds for anyone who didn't like your dad. Jennifer told Oprah that she would want to meet Donald Trump and said, "I've got a pretty good speech," and it ends with a martini to the face. "I have something to say for all of them. I watch different characters on the news and I'm like, you just wait." Not too long after that, Donald Trump Jr. had something to say to her. He went on Twitter and shared a link to the article with the headline, "Jennifer Lawrence, if I meet Trump, it'll end with a martini to the face," and he fired back and said, "I'm pretty sure that's not how it would end." Jen really didn't seem too bothered by his tweet, and she didn't bother tweeting back, which is probably for the best. Taking over spot number 4 is Kim Kardashian. This one seemed like a lot of miscommunication or an issue that was never an issue, but the media made it look like one. I'm still not really sure. Jen has made it clear for a long time now that she's obsessed with the Kardashians, and she even started having a friendship with Kris Jenner. According to a source who spoke to Radar Online, Kim started to have enough of Jen's attention. Reports claim that Kim went into a jealous rage over the close relationship that was developing between her mom and Jen. The source said, I quote, "Kim was always Kris's favorite until Jennifer crashed the scene. She was waltzing into the family's world acting like a superstar and upsetting the order with her loud chaos. Kris says she's a hoot and treats her like the blonde daughter she never had. The sunshine walks with Jennifer in Kris's eyes, and Kim is fed up and doesn't know what to do." No one is sure if any of this is true because things seemed to be okay between them when Jennifer interviewed Kim on Jimmy Kimmel Live when she took over his show. It seemed very normal to me, but that could always just be an act. I'm really not sure. Sniping number 3 spot is Lala Kent. It's no secret that Jen speaks her mind and doesn't normally beat around the bush. But people were surprised to see some of the comments she made on Watch What Happens Live regarding Lala Kent. During the interview, she called her a C-word, because I cannot say that word. But apparently it was in a joking manner. Whether it was a joke or not, Kent didn't take too kindly to it and went on Twitter to talk about it. She sent out a bunch of tweets that have since been deleted. A month after, she went on a podcast to talk about it, and she made comments saying Jen's last 2 films were fails and said she's the type of chick who would give Harvey Weinstein favors for roles. Honestly, that was just the tip of the iceberg of the comments she made. She went in very hard on the actress, even picking apart her appearance. However, Jen still stands by the fact that she was joking in her initial interview. I mean, I don't get the joke. When I'm joking, I don't use that word, but okay. Next up at number 2, we have J-Lo. This feud was never really a feud, but people didn't know that right away until J-Lo cleared it up once the media had turned it into something. During a visit to The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon back in 2014, Jennifer Lawrence treated the audience to a party story that included Jimmy and J-Lo. She revealed that she was drunk and she and Jimmy both saw J-Lo and they said they wanted to ask her to dance, so they made a plan that they would do a spin and say, "Dance with us." Turns out Jimmy chickened out, so Jen was left to do it on her own, but she got the cold shoulder from J-Lo. She did the spin, asked her to dance, and J-Lo replied with, no, I think I'm gonna observe." Obviously, Jen was devastated, as I would be, so the media ran with that story. But J-Lo cleared things up with Access Hollywood and said that she told Jen, "I'm good right here," only because it was really crowded at the moment, so she just literally wanted to stay right there in that area. She cleared it up though by saying that she would have loved to dance with Jen, so kind of a big misunderstanding. In the number 1 spot is Lindsay Lohan. In December 2015, while promoting Joy on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Jen stirred up some controversy with a dig at Lindsay. Colbert praised her for being a star who's willing to talk about the things that aren't so glamorous and asked her about getting sick while shooting Joy in Boston. Jen candidly talked about how she got a stomach virus and was puking a lot. During her story time, she said, "I just keep going until eventually my body is just like, if we don't make her barf or pass out, she won't stop. I get like Lindsay Lohan grade exhaustion, but without any drugs or alcohol." Immediately afterwards, Lindsay's sister Aliana jumped to her defense on Twitter and wrote, "I never breathe life into negativity, but I stand by my family. Disappointed in Jennifer Lawrence? Not cool." Lindsay ended up chiming in saying, thank you sister, maybe who you're referring to should learn to support others. Lindsay's mom then later told Entertainment Tonight that they have all been a fan of Jennifer's and her movies, and that it was very disappointing to see her trash talk Lindsay like that. I mean, I agree, not a cool comment.
And at number 10, Piers Morgan. Infamous journalist Piers Morgan might be one of the most outspoken people against Meghan Markle. And there's actually a dating story behind that. It makes the whole thing even more juicy. So apparently Piers asked Meghan out on a date before she was with Harry, of course. And rumor has it that they went out on that date, but Meghan ghosted Piers after. And this could be the real reason that Piers can seem very angry towards Meghan when talking about her. Most recently, after Meghan's explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey, Piers did not hold back, trashing her on Good Morning Britain. And before him and the other hosts could even discuss the topic, he went on raging about how the interview's tarnishing the reputation of Britain around the world and hurting everything the Queen has worked so hard for. He also made a point to say that he does not believe a word that she says, so I mean, clearly he's not a fan. And at number 9, Wendy Williams. Wendy Williams trashes pretty much everyone on her show, so I'm not sure Meghan should take it personally, but for some reason Wendy Williams really hates Meghan Markle and is not afraid to tell the world. When the couple first got together, Wendy said, quote, "There's way too much drama with her and that will not work out." Then when the two did get married and Meghan became a royal, Wendy said on her show that Meghan, quote, "weaseled her way into that kingdom," also calling her the, quote, "Duchess of Malibu." Then when Wendy was talking about the documentary Harry and Meghan: An African Journey, she spoke about how Meghan was warned that she should stay away from Harry, as the tabloids would ruin her whole life. But apparently Meghan didn't believe this. But Wendy didn't buy that and said, quote, "Yes, you did. You knew exactly what you were doing. Please don't try to garner sympathy from us." I guess insinuating that Meghan knew exactly the kind of press craziness that she was getting into. And at number 8, Katie Hopkins. Katie Hopkins is a well-known British writer who has made it very clear that she hates Meghan Markle. She once coined Meghan as the, quote, "American Kate Middleton," and, quote, "a budget princess die with an Oscar-winning innocent face." Hopkins even went on 60 Minutes to talk about Markle, who described her as a, quote, "nobody who, quote, wears bad clothes," plus agrees with some other haters who are calling Meghan a hypocrite. She even once clapped back at a tourist defending Meghan. When the tourist told her, quote, "there's nothing wrong with Meghan," Hopkins replied, quote, "but then there's nothing right with her either." And at number 7, Chrissy Swan. Chrissy Swan is an Australian TV personality that has been outspoken critiquing Meghan Markle. Chrissy first made comments about Meghan on Facebook, following news of the royal engagement between Prince Harry and Meghan. She wrote, quote, "For some reason, I still haven't warmed up to her," adding that she felt Meghan was still acting while she was out with Harry, saying that the humility that she showed was all just an act. While a few people agreed with Swan's opinion, others were mad, calling her a bully and saying that they were, quote, "very disappointed by her comments." And at number 6, Trevor Engelson. So if you don't already know who Trevor Engelson is, he's actually Meghan Markle's first husband. And for the most part, he's actually been pretty respectful to Meghan's privacy and hasn't commented publicly about her. But that doesn't mean that comments he made in private about her haven't been leaked to the public. Royal biographer Andrew Morton is the one that spilled the beans on Engelson's feelings towards Meghan. In his book called Meghan, a Hollywood Princess, the author portrays Trevor's alleged dislike for his ex-wife. In the book, the author reveals that Engelson initially loved being married to Meghan, but later felt like nothing to her, which was confirmed to him when Meghan allegedly mailed her wedding ring back to Trevor out of the blue after 2 years of marriage. Halfway at number 5, Erin Foster. Erin Foster is the daughter of musician David Foster, as well as a writer and performer. She's another person that is known for blasting celebrities online, with Meghan being one of those people. In November of 2017, Erin posted a photo of Meghan from her Deal or No Deal days and captioned it, quote, "never forget," which is definitely some subtle shade. Then, just to make sure her followers would not forget, she posted another picture of Meghan with a briefcase and added an even harsher caption that read, quote, "this briefcase is filled with my plans to be famous." So it's clear that she just thinks Meghan is a clout chaser hungry for fame. And at number 4, Prince Andrew. Now we're getting into some of the people in the royal family who are not too fond of the Duchess. Apparently, a source said that after she got engaged to Prince Harry and went to speak with his family, Prince Andrew was not very kind to her, while Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip were warm and welcoming. The source said that his difference in behavior with Meghan compared to the other royal members was very noticeable. I would assume even to Meghan herself. He definitely did not say or do anything rude. However, we all know that a person's tone can really say so much. And at number 3, Kate Middleton. This one is a little heartbreaking if it's true, but it's widely speculated that Kate Middleton and Meghan do not get along. And these rumors were made worse by Meghan's Oprah interview. But this all could just be speculation from the fans of each of the women, as now that Kate finally has some competition for the love of the people in Meghan, the fans of the two women seem to be battling it out on social media. But it also seems that new info we are learning from the palace is fueling the divide too. Like the fact that Harry and Meghan moved away from William and Kate at one point, or the fact that the brothers' joint staffing agreement was recently ended, with people thinking Meghan is the reason for this new divide between William and Harry. There was even a rumor that Meghan made Kate cry at one point. However, Meghan revealed in the Oprah interview that it was actually the other way around. However, Kate apologized to Meghan, and Meghan seemed to genuinely accept it in the interview. And at number 2, Katy Perry. So this is a random one, but singer Katy Perry threw some serious shade at Meghan's way after her wedding. When the American Idol hosts were all asked about Meghan's dress, Katy replied, quote, "I would have done one more fitting. I'm never not gonna tell the truth. One more fitting, but I love you." But that's not all. Perry added on after, quote, Kate won, clearly referring to the fact that Kate had the better dress. But Kate Middleton's Alexander McQueen dress was stunning, I can't even lie about that. And since that was a common sentiment around social media at that time, especially about the dress not being altered properly, most people did agree with Katie. And at number 1, Princess Eugenie. Princess Eugenie is another member of the royal family that many believe does not like Meghan. Apparently, the main reason for the spat is that when Harry and Meghan announced their engagement, Princess Eugenie actually had to push back her own wedding because of it. An insider said the princess was extremely unhappy about having to push back her wedding date due to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding, as the princess and her fiancé were supposed to get married in September of 2018, but were forced to postpone it because of the royal wedding. Princess Eugenie also reportedly hated Meghan for choosing St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle for their wedding venue, since it was Princess Eugenie who wanted that venue first. She did get married shortly after, but obviously her event was very overshadowed.
At number 10, Eminem. What happens when one rapper crosses another? Well, a feud begins. We've seen this type of thing before with a number of rappers like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B, Kanye West and Drake and Meek Mill, and just so many others. But another toxic duo we can include here is Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly, because their feud has also been pretty big. It all started back all the way in 2012 when MGK was 22 and he tweeted about Eminem's then 16-year-old daughter Haley. MGK tweeted calling Haley hot in, quote, the most respectful way possible because M is king. Now, even though Kelly meant to be respectful, he still crossed the line with that tweet, and so a feud began. Because of this initial tweet, MGK's music got banned on the radio for a while, and as it would, it made him angry, especially with Eminem, so in 2018, MGK made a song with Tech Nine where he shaded the rapper, and then shortly after that, Eminem hit back with his own song shading his rival in return. From that point, it was just a lot of messy back and forth, talking trash about each other in interviews and in music. Really, at one point, this beef just kind of got exhausting and people just started speculating that this feud was just fabricated because they're both signed to the same label. It's been pretty quiet between them since early 2020, so maybe this toxicity has subsided, but you can never really be too sure with these two. At number 9, Conor McGregor. Now this beef here is what got a lot of people scratching their heads because it seemed to have just come out of the blue, and it left a lot of us feeling a little confused. At the VMAs this year, while walking the red carpet, there was quite the altercation between MGK and Conor McGregor. The rapper was at the VMAs for a performance, and because he was up for an award, which he later won by the way, and Conor, well, he was just there for his buddy Bieber. Anyway, they were both on the red carpet at the beginning of the evening, and an altercation broke out. Based on some of the footage that was posted of the event, Conor appeared to have thrown a drink at MGK and then proceeded to try and fight him. It was really dramatic, and no one knows why the altercation even happened in the first place. It was first rumored that they got into a fight because MGK refused to take a picture with McGregor, but the rapper later denied those allegations. It was such a bizarre situation that no one really has any answers for, but clearly there's some kind of bad blood there, so if anyone really knows why that is, please let me know. Now before I carry on talking about people who dislike Machine Gun Kelly, I would first like to take a quick moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because your engagement really does help the channel grow and we really appreciate your support. At number 8, Gabriel Rodriguez. Now this next story I'm going to tell you about is one that I had no idea about until my roommate told me about it, so shout out to Blake for being the real MVP and saving this list. Basically, there was an altercation between the rapper and his bodyguards and an actor by the name of Gabriel Rodriguez at a bar because Rodriguez was mad at MGK for that tweet about Eminem's daughter that I told you guys about earlier. After the actor harassed the rapper at the bar, he was soon kicked out, but he caught up to MGK and his crew later on that night. Still angry, the actor and MGK got into a verbal altercation, and then the actor said that he would fight the rapper's bodyguards, which is exactly what ended up happening. The actor got pummeled, and charges were filed against the bodyguards, but this man was really determined to get into the ring, so to speak, with MGK because he said that he would drop all charges if he could fight the rapper one-on-one. Either way, this matter was taken care of through a lawsuit and with monetary compensation, but I wouldn't be surprised if that actor still wants to fight Machine Gun Kelly. At number 7, Jeff Lewis. It seems like Machine Gun Kelly isn't just loud on stage, but also at home. You would think that he would put this loud rocker persona to rest while at home in his free time, but according to his neighbors, that couldn't be further from the truth. His neighbors have said that he's known to host loud and crazy parties, disturbing much of his community, and he's also known to have joyrides with his friends on the block. Neighbors have also complained about loud motorcycles revving their engines at inappropriate times of the night, and his guests have also spilled over into neighboring properties from time to time. It's also been reported that during parties, Kelly's guests have parked in neighbors' driveways and have blocked many of the neighbors' cars as well. It really seems as though he doesn't have a sense of respect for other people's properties or quiet hours. This all caused a feud between the rapper and his neighbor TV personality Jeff Lewis, who exposed Machine Gun Kelly for his nightly shenanigans. Luckily, they were able to bury the hatchet after the rapper bought Jeff a bottle of champagne as a truce, but what I really want to know is, did the shenanigans actually stop, or did Jeff just get over it for the sake of his frenemy? At number 6, G-Eazy. Okay, now that we've talked about some non-music related beefs with Machine Gun Kelly, let's circle back to this Eminem feud because this is where a lot of the hate really stems from. When it comes to feuds like this, you always see people taking sides, and so this is how MGK made some enemies along the way since a number of other artists sided with Eminem on this matter, including rapper G-Eazy, and this made things a little messy. See, G-Eazy already had a mild amount of hate for MGK after beach photos surfaced of MGK and Halsey spending the day together. At the time, Halsey and G-Eazy were on a break, but as far as G-Eazy was concerned, that was still his girl and Kelly crossed the line. So when this Eminem versus MGK stuff started to heat up, G-Eazy obviously sided with the opposition. As we all know by now though, rappers just can't let things rest, and so MGK did a freestyle rap during an interview and shaded G-Eazy, and then G-Eazy collabed back with his own diss track for MGK. You know, this back and forth rapper drama is incredibly exhausting. Between them fighting over Halsey and picking sides in a completely different fight, things got messy, but the bottom line here is that they really don't like each other. Get away from me, Fly. Don't make me square up with you. At number 5, Halsey. But speaking of Halsey, we can't forget to include her side of the narrative here. Tying into this beef with Jeezy and MGK, Halsey was sort of stuck in the middle of this. She sort of had two people fighting over them, just adding to the overall messiness of the feud. Though I wouldn't say that she downright hates Machine Gun Kelly, there was a point where she certainly wasn't impressed by the way that he was acting. Halsey responded to all the drama that was going on at the time by calling Machine Gun Kelly, quote, pathetic. This is in response to the claims that MGK made during an interview where he said that he had, quote, smashed Halsey after allegedly dating in 2017. This all seems to be water under the bridge now since MGK and Halsey collaborated on the song Forget Me Too that was released last year, but I'm going to assume that it took a little while for things to cool off between them before coming back together to work. At number 4, Miller McCormick. Machine Gun Kelly recently made a new enemy, and that enemy is Miller McCormick, the brother of the late Mac Miller. The rapper was set to start production on a new film titled Good News, but after facing criticism from McCormick, it was looking like the film would start production untitled. The film in question was supposed to be about an up-and-coming musician who struggled with deep-rooted personal issues and is inspired by a lot of young rappers' origin stories. Now, the problem that Miller McCormick had with this film in particular was the fact that the title was the same as the last song that was released by Mac Miller posthumously. That, combined with the strange similarity to Mac's life, just didn't sit right with him, and he had to make that known. McCormick seemed to criticize MGK's movie on his Instagram, where he said, quote, "F your movie, at least change the title." This sparked a number of others also calling for changes to the film, and this later reached producers who vowed to change the film's title. Now, we don't know if all of this similarity to Mac Miller was intentional or not, but either way, MGK got in some hot water and probably lost some respect from McCormick. At number 3, Corey Taylor. Recently, Machine Gun Kelly went through sort of a metamorphosis of music, so to speak, reinventing his sound. The rapper recently released an album that was more punk rock alternative sounding, and a lot of people had opinions on it. As they do. One person who really had nothing nice to say about MGK's new sound was Slipknot frontman Corey Taylor, as he shared his thoughts on artists in the rock genre in a recent interview. Essentially, Corey said that artists these days are ripping off their sound from other more original artists, and he also took a jab at MGK when he said, quote, "I hate the artists who failed in one genre and decided to go rock. I think he knows who he is, but that's another story. I'm the worst. I hate everything, and people are used to that with me though." That seemed like quite a loaded comment at MGK, and there was a lot of fury behind it as well. Either way, this new sound that MGK is working with really seems to be paying off for him, since he recently won a VMA for Best Alternative Video for his song My Ex's Best Friend, which is actually a banger if you haven't checked that one out already. At number 2, Summer Rae. Even though Machine Gun Kelly is thriving with his girlfriend Megan Fox, apparently there's some alleged drama surrounding their relationship and his former relationship with Instagram model Summer Rae. This influencer recently alleged that MGK cheated on her with Megan while he was away filming for the movie Midnight in the Switchgrass. That film set is where Megan and MGK first met. Summer, going into more detail, said, quote, "I don't really feel bad saying that because he did kind of cheat on me with Megan Fox if you look at the timeline." Summer also alleged that she had confronted Kelly about why she was told that she wasn't allowed to be on the set for one of his music videos. MGK said that it was because of COVID, but she later found out that it was because Megan was playing the rapper's love interest in the video. Overall, Summer was just left feeling a little betrayed at the end of it all, so I don't really blame her for having some kind of negative energy towards Machine Gun Kelly. And finally, at number 1, Brian Austin Green. Now, the one person who I feel would really hate Machine Gun Kelly the most is Megan Fox's ex-husband, Brian Austin Green. Although he tried to make people think that things are all fine and dandy with him, and that most of his hostility is more so directed to Megan, I feel like deep down there's still some hatred there for Kelly, since he's the one that Megan fell in love with first after him. Ever since Megan and Machine Gun Kelly went public with their relationship, Brian has spoken out about the relationship a few times, but a lot of people feel as though he's hiding his true feelings. In one interview, when asked about how he found out about the relationship, he gave very few details and simply said, quote, "I found out in my own way, and that's as much detail as I'll give you on that one." Something just isn't right there, but I feel as though in time his true feelings will come out, and I feel like it might be a little messy too. Maybe a diss track will also come out of it.